And now I'd like to introduce Supervisor Patricia Jursik.
Thank you. I'm Patricia Jursik. I represent the South Shore, and I'm also the chairperson of the Economic Development Committee. The proposed sale of O'Donnell includes the entire park, the garage, which with over 1,300 parking spaces, the pavilion, where we are now, which houses Betty Bryn Children's Museum, hosts restaurant, and rental rooms, the entire plaza, and an open green area on the southeast. The deed restriction that Bill just talked about protects public use, but there's been much misinformation about the deed restriction. It affects only the northernmost part of the property. And we have a picture here, and I used a red ribbon. I want to show you where that deed restriction is. Only that part of the property is deed restricted. That's the line from Wisconsin Avenue drawn to Lincoln Memorial Drive. Everything from that red line north is deed restricted. Everything south of that line has no deed restriction, none. There's been much misinformation about this proposed sale. Part of it from some supportive groups that want to, quote, activate the public space. As Bill just indicated, nothing in the written agreements promise anything for public use. And even the deed restriction gives absolutely no protection for the entire southernmost portion of that property. This is a bad deal economically for the county. The $14 million appraisal was done from an income realization basis. In other words, you take the parking revenues from the parking garage plus the rentals received from the pavilion and value the entire property, which includes a plaza, open green space, and the structure itself. Noting that it was deed restricted, as if the whole property was deed restricted. That's false. Only the northernmost section is deed restricted. And the public southeast open area. None of that was ever valued in that $14 million appraisal. The appraisal puts no value at all on this plaza. This entire building, which sits at the very first plot of Wisconsin Avenue, probably the most valuable site, not only in the city of Milwaukee, not only in the county of Milwaukee, but perhaps even in the state of Wisconsin, has never been valued, but for the rentals received. And because this is a county property, we allow reduced rentals for a children's museum. I'm not criticizing that. We do that because a children's museum is in the public good. We have rental rooms that are often used for public purposes. We're doing that right now. We are using this room for public information. There are no rents being received. However, in the hands of a private property, this structure can bring in market value rents. That was never taken into consideration in an appraisal. There's also no value on the open areas, the entire southeast and the plaza at the top of the garage. Even though in the hands of a private party, that entire portion south of that red line is fully capable of being developed, save for zoning. And by the way, the city of Milwaukee already has long-range plans available that you can look at on site, and you will see the city of Milwaukee's long-range plan is to develop that site. So clearly zoning is not going to protect that entire south section. And yet none of that was ever taken into consideration in the appraised value. Selling O'Donnell will result in increased taxes to maintain the current level of support for our parks, now at approximately $1.8 million per year. So when that revenue is lost for parks, the only way to replace that will be to raise taxes. O'Donnell serves the public interest, and the sale of O'Donnell is not in the public interest. Keeping O'Donnell means that we maintain public access and full use. We maintain the view of our lake across the entire plaza, both the north and the south. It respects the deed restriction that's currently in place on the north, and would also respect a use of the south as if it were deed restricted, and the county should never consider sale of that south side. It keeps parking and rental revenues for our parks in place, and finally reduces the need for increasing tax levy. Keeping and preserving the park and the structure is not a new idea. Our ancestors preserved it. It should be the only idea for those of us that are publicly elected to represent the public good, since it serves all of us now and it will be in the future. This is in fact a very bad idea. It does not give full value, it does not serve preservation, and it does not serve the public interest. Even a great corporate citizen like Northwestern Mutual should not get a sweetheart deal at public expense.